Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our second ever MAB podcast. This is your host, Noman Punja. I hope you enjoyed our first podcast on business development with Tom Leeper. Our topic today is personal branding. Once again, we have our guest, Tom Leeper, back on with us today to help us navigate this topic. As we continue to grow our business development skills, creating a personal brand is very important. And today, Tom is going to help us navigate some of those aspects. Thank you, Tom, for joining us again. And let's get started. So, Tom, just first question. Why is it important to build a personal brand?
That's a simple one. One word answer: success. In any endeavor, particularly ours, just take a look at the successful people around you. Something makes them stand out. It's their brand. And if you think about it, we're in the people business, and people identify with who you are, not with what you do. And I emphasize that to people all the time. We happen to be doing accounting, but we're really in the people business at the end of the day. So if you want people to identify you, you got to let them know who you are. One way to do that is to build your brand.
Okay. So for you, that's franchising. So whenever people hear of franchising, they think of you. Is that the way kind of how it works?
That's recent, but those I've had various rebrandings over the course of my career, depending upon what happens to be going on in the marketplace, in the industry, what have you. And so branding itself, one brand does not fit all, and one brand does not stay with you all the time. It's something that will be changing over the years, or could be changing over the years.
Okay. So how do I get started? So what are some of the steps of building my brand?
Well, I think it starts from within. You really have to identify who are you, and who do I want to be, and how do I want to be seen. And like I said before, remember, brands can change. You don't have to be identified with the same brand your whole career. You can be flexible about it. And where I'm going with that is, when we look at our profession, I really consider two major brands from a broad perspective. One would be a brand of being a technical person, which many of us are, and we all start that way. No one passes the CPA exam without being a technical person. And the other being a salesperson. Some people focus on one or the other. Some people blend into both. So I think an important thing when get started with building your own brand is to identify, who am I? Which of these? Am I part of these? Am I all of these? Am I one of these? But identifying that and then going from there.
Okay. So do you often recommend people go one route or the other, or do they kind of have to be a blend of both?
That's a tough one. I think it really has a lot to do with the person. Some people would much prefer to sit and really learn a subject, a technical subject, better than anybody else in the room. That's what they enjoy. Other people would like to sit in the room and get to know everybody there and have them be their buddy. That's a different person altogether. I really think it's not only who you are that's going to determine which of those is best for you, but it's whatever you think is best for you and whatever you're most comfortable with. I mean, you've got to be able to walk in shoes. I wouldn't advise a technical person to try to become a sales expert, and vice versa. They don't necessarily fit their personalities, they don't fit their styles, and they don't fit who they naturally are. This is a natural process, and people just want to be who they are.
Okay. So let's say I decide to become a technical expert. I know I did my CPA, but then how do I start building that brand out in the market? Or at least, I'm assuming you start off internally and then you build it out. So what are some of the steps I go through to build out a brand as a technical expert?
Well, you just did the first step, identifying that's the brand that you want to present yourself as. Then I think, seeing as we're talking to managers, the managers have the core technology or the core experience under their belt now. So they really know what they're doing. And now it's just a question of, what do they want to do with that information to allow them to stand out, to be identified with that information? And what I mean by that is, choose something in the technical world, choose something that the firm needs, that the industry needs, and identify with it and become really, really good at it. Consume yourself with it. If it's real estate, become the best real estate person. If it's 1031 exchanges, become the best 1031 exchange person. Try to identify one of those areas you really like, you're passionate about, and you want to be the best at, and you want to eventually be known for it. So people will come to you in order to get their answer for those particular skill sets that are needed.
So first goal is identifying what you want to be, then learn about that subject as much as you can, and then kind of start building that out. Let everybody know internally you're the expert, and then kind of branch out externally. Those are the kind of the steps. Part of that.
Yeah. When I do evaluations with managers and seniors as well, one of the things I really try to encourage them to do is to become a go-to person. Really be identified with something. You really want to have somebody know that if I got a leasing question, I'm going to come to Tom to go get my answer. You want to be that guy. You want to be that gal. You want to be that person. So become the go-to person. And the only way it's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of effort, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of investment in yourself into getting to be that place. And if you look at around the successful people in the technical areas, that's exactly what they've done over their career. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Follow what they've done, and follow in their footsteps, and follow them around. They could be mentors for you.
Okay. So then let's talk about the other side then. So, some of the things like we talked about last time in the business development, we're a little afraid of, but like you said, if you want to be a sales expert, you have to pick that, and that's something you have to be comfortable with. So what are some of the steps of becoming a sales expert and branding yourself as that?
I think it's all about people. It's all about becoming known for that as well. I mean, just because we're called a sales expert doesn't necessarily make you not a technical expert, but you want to be known out there. And the only way to be known is to communicate. I mean, you got to let people know that this is what you want to do. I think in terms of being a sales expert, again, identify the person who you really want to have mentor you, or you want to follow in their footsteps, and follow them.
Okay. So as part of that, when you just mentioned how you followed somebody early in your career that you wanted to emulate. So what were some of your early successes or struggles when trying to build up your own brand?
It took time. First of all, one of the struggles was the firm that I was with. I was with a Big Four firm. It was Big 8 at that time. And I was in a marketplace that did not encourage sales and marketing activity. It was more of an old boys network. So that was a challenge, but it was a challenge that I was able to overcome in time. I allowed it to happen. I didn't take control of it, but that was part of being in that particular marketplace. To my good fortune, and to everybody listening to this podcast right now, I moved to California, where the marketplace was completely different. And I was very, very open, and people were open and welcome to meet with me, and were very encouraging to meet with me. Didn't matter how old I was, how young I was, who I knew, what I knew. The fact that I was with a firm at the time that had a good reputation in town would get me meetings, and I took those meetings. On top of that, I was a bit of a desperate person. I came to California not knowing a soul, and I came to California not having a client. And the managing partner here, who I actually had mentor me here, who was a sales and marketing type of a person, basically handed me 3 cards on my first day of being with the firm, said, go get busy. We don't have anything for you to do. So a desperate person not knowing a soul, I took advantage of those 3 cards and started building my network in California right from there. But the market was very receptive, so that was great. So the challenge was from being in the Northeast, where it wasn't very receptive, to being out here where it was. So I was fortunate that occurred for me.
Yeah, I recently had somebody use an analogy, I think based on what you just said about time, that reminded me of this, where it's building a brand or doing business development is a lot like gardening, right? But where you have to sow a lot, you have to give it a lot of love and care to for it to bear fruit.
Totally.
It takes a little bit of time, but you'll get there.
The network I have today wasn't near the network I had 5 years ago. It just continues to grow and to grow and to grow. And that's a direct result of my investing time into it. It's interesting when oftentimes I'm asked by staff, where do I usually get my clients from? And my answer is the same every time. Usually the last person I talk to, because I'm fresh in mind. So my goal is to be out there to meet with people as often as I practically can without sacrificing the other responsibilities of my job.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so can you give us an example of something, somewhere, or a project in which your personal branding has helped to build a relationship or win a project?
I'll give you two. One that's a long-term client and one that's a brand new client. When I first moved to California, 30 years ago now, the first client that I got, I still have. I'm still working with that client. They happen to relocate to Reno, Nevada. I still service them. It's an audit client, and we've done multiple services for them. The relationship that I had with the owner of the business, we were the same age, we hit it off, and I continued to persist and work with him closely. For about 10 years in the interim, I maintained a personal relationship with him and handled his personal work, where his company was moved to somebody else. After those 10 years, when he bought the company, he brought us back in. And in spite of the fact that he moved the company to Reno, Nevada from LA, where the marketplace, the fees in the marketplace are about 40% less than what they are here, he was willing to pay our LA fees just to be able to maintain the relationship for us. In fact,
that's awesome.
He brought in a controller who decided they wanted to save costs, called me into a meeting with the controller, and he asked me point blank, says, Tom, if I were to get another firm here in Reno to provide the service you provide, do you think that the fees would be the same as you? I said, no. He said, well, how much less will it be? I said, 40 to 50%. And he turned to his controller and he said, you see, that's what I call value. And I will retain this guy till the end of my business career. So on the other end, I moved into a company last year that was changing firms because of a merger. The partner that they had for many years, when they merged their firm, that partner retired. So they lost the 20-year relationship. And that firm happened to be Markham, by the way. So because of a relationship I have, I was invited in to pitch the job. But I had to get through the CFO in order to meet with the CEO. And the CFO, when I met with him, he was not interested in making any kind of a switch. It was really the CEO. So when the CFO asked me, what makes you different than Markham? I said, well, is that question about the audit? And he said, yes, it is. I said, absolutely nothing. All auditors follow the same rules, provide the same level of competence, and are monitored by our peer review. So if you need the cheapest guy, you don't want me, and I can provide you names. But if you want someone who's contrary or different than other CPAs, then maybe we have something to talk about. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, I'd like to pride myself as a CPA who utilizes your information that I believe is good, and I'm just verifying, to look forward. 99.9% of CPAs have a great ability to look back. Everything we do is in the past. But if you want a CPA that's got the ability to look forward, then maybe we have something to talk about. He said, I can now introduce you to the CEO. He'll want to meet with you. I spent 3 hours with him. We never talked about accounting. Yeah, we never talked about accounting. By the end of our conversation, he asked for a proposal on his inventory control system. And then the last question he asked me was, okay, how long are you going to be involved with this account? Because I don't want to talk to a salesman. I want to talk to a guy who's involved with the account. So we sold that account, and we've since then, in the last year, gone from a review to an audit to corporate tax to individual tax to estate planning and to 2 valuations. And that started off as a review. So that really was, that's my story anyways, individual story.
Well, that's a great example of, using your brand, using your personality to, win something over. You're right? Like a lot of stuff we do is at some level becomes commoditized, but I think it's that individual attention, that individual personality that makes the difference. So,
absolutely.
So I know, we have to build, we're building our brand at a personal level, but, one of the great luxuries we have with Armanino is it does, especially in California, it has a great brand out there. even in Dallas, we're working really hard to build, a brand marketing strategy and all those types of things here. How can we leverage our Menino's brand to build to develop our own personal brand?
I love this topic because when you really look at branding, in my mind, there's two elements of branding that will lead to success: your personal brand and your organization's brand. Our Menino has made it very, very easy for us to really identify with a brand that is totally unique in the marketplace. I've been in this profession for many, many years, been involved with many, many firms, and known many, many firms. One thing our Menino has, and it's the first time in my career where I've actually had an elevator speech when someone says what makes our Menino different than another, I can actually honestly answer that very quickly. And the answer is our Menino is 50-50 and every other firm in the profession is 90-10. Now, what's great about an answer like that is it forces the person to ask the next question. What do you mean? Well, what I mean is our Menino as a 50-50 firm, 50% of our revenue are the traditional accounting, audit, tax services, and 50% are all services, consulting, valuation, and otherwise that your company's going to need. You don't have to go anywhere else. 90-10 services, 90-10 firms, 90% traditional audit and tax services, and the other 10% are for whatever the 90% happen to need, and they happen to call it a consulting practice. It's not. We bring something very, very unique to the table. And for the benefit of those people listening to this podcast, use that. I mean, there's no other firm in the industry, any size, I defy to find, that can make that claim. So take advantage of that wholly, especially if you're dealing with privately held and middle market businesses. They love hearing that. They love to have one provider. They don't like to have 10 providers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they already have their hands full with enough things, right?
Yep.
So if you were to summarize it, how would you summarize, I know we've talked a little bit about this, how would you summarize your brand today?
I'd like to consider myself a business partner more than anything. People come to me because I'm an auditor and they have audit services required, but I really want to be considered what I would consider a non-traditional CPA and really thought of as the partner, similar to the situation we had with that new client. I want the market to know me that I'm also a networker, and that because I'm a networker, I have a huge portfolio of contacts that I'm more than happy to matchmake. I'm an introducer, and I'm also a giver. Whenever I have a meeting, when I leave that meeting, I want to be able to give that person that I'm meeting with something of value, a name, a number, or an introduction, a relationship. But I'm really looking to network, market, matchmake, and be a business partner. At the same time, I'm going to be the top quality technician that they're going to have because I'm really a good business strategist.
Okay, that's awesome. That's a great brand to have. So, you've built your brand. You did all this work to create that reputation in the market. So, what are some of the keys to maintaining that brand? Yeah,
it's consistency and it's diligence and commitment. This is really an investment in yourself. The way I do it and the path I've chosen is meetings, a lot of individual meetings. That takes time. Last year, I had 386 meetings. Now that includes clients, prospects, staff, and referral sources. That's a huge time commitment. But I've chosen to do that. That's my own choice. And I'm on pace to do it again this year. But whatever it is that you're choosing to do to keep your brand out there, you've got to be out there. I could go hole up for the next 6 months, and all of a sudden, in many ways, I'm starting all over again. People will quickly forget who you are because there's a lot of others out there who are doing the same type of thing. So it's a real commitment, it's diligence, it's consistency, and it is an investment in yourself, whatever path you choose.
Yeah, it seems like it's just like lifelong learning, right? It's lifelong branding. You have to constantly be out there, just make sure everybody knows. Because players in the market change too.
It's a career, not a job. And right. If you're really going to be a good advisor to your clients, which is what I pride myself in, I need to know what's going on in their marketplace. And the only way to do that is to be out there talking to people who are involved in the marketplace.
True. Okay. So, last question. If you could, look back now when you started, right, with all your years of experience, if you could do something differently in both business development or personal branding, is there anything you would do differently than you did?
I would have started earlier. I really waited. Until I moved out here and I was already a manager. I could have gotten a head start way before then. And I was afraid of it, honestly. And I realized and I learned real quickly that there was no reason to be afraid of it. It's really nothing out of the ordinary. It's a very natural thing. It's what we do every day. And so had I had the somewhat of the knowledge, knowledge is wasted on the young kind of thing, I would have started much earlier. I see some very interested and aggressive interns out there that I've done presentations for who are very interested in this. Now, you get down to a level like that, there's only a certain amount of time that you can commit to it. But it can also be done in a way that fits within a schedule without being totally impossible for you to accomplish. It's not overwhelming. It just has to become part of what you do every day. And had I started 5 years earlier, I would have been that much further along. And the longer you wait, the further you're going to fall behind. And one of the things I might want to add today, there's an advantage that's going on today. People don't have to go out and have 386 meetings a year. That's just happens to be the path that developed in the way that I did things at a time when I did things. The communication is the most important part of the branding, keeping the word out there. Today, with technology the way it is and social media advances that there are out there, people can do this without investing a whole lot of time. But however much time they choose to invest, be consistent and continue to do it constantly. This is a career. This is not a job.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, right? One of the things I do is I constantly share the articles. We have that amazing tool, Amplify. I constantly share articles that Armanino produces, right? It takes me 2 seconds to press share on LinkedIn. And oftentimes I get people who talk to me. I'll meet people that I know in my social life, and I'll see them and they'll go, "Oh yeah, I saw that article that you posted about." So, not a lot of work on my side where I had to produce that, but at the same time, people recognize, right? This is where leveraging the Armanino brand has significally helped me personally. So now that's a great point.
But it also is that also is a reflection of your personal brand too. That comes back.
Right.
And what you've just done is invested in the personal brand. And what seems to be little things are really big things. Anybody can do the big things. We all have to. It's part of what we do. It's the little things that make you stand out.
Yep. Yeah. It seems to be everything kind of adds up, right? Like if you just keep doing different things, they add up together and create that big picture for you.
You're right. It's cumulative. Totally.
Yep. Well, thank you, Tom. Those are, all the questions we had. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I mean, all I can say is that the firm has done half the job for those who are interested in developing their brand and their career path. So you're halfway there. Now it's just a question of making the commitment or the willingness to invest in yourself to see if we can't pick up the other half and help speed your way to success.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Tom. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate you talking to us both about business development and personal branding. Both of these topics I think are very relevant and very important to all of us. So appreciate your time and thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. This is something I really believe in. I'm passionate about. And if anybody needs any guidance, personal guidance, they know where to find me. I'm always available and always make myself available any way I can help at all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for listening to the Personal Branding Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you like the content of this podcast, please click thumbs up at the bottom of the screen. And also share it with the other Armanino team members and spread the news about this MAB podcast. Our next podcast is going to focus on the real estate industry. We're going to talk to our leaders in Armanino regarding the changes, the issues that impact the real estate industry, and how can we help our clients in that world. Once again, this is your host, Noman Punja, and thank you for listening to the MAB podcast.